Women of Reddit, what is your trying to buy a car/item but the seller is sexist story? Going into a hardware store to buy a new parts for my tap. I have the broken part and my male partner is with me. I talk to the associate and my partner is saying nothing because he didn't fix the tap. I ask questions and he addresses the answers to my partner. I move in his eye line and he moves around me to keep talking to my partner. I ask another question and my partner turns away and the associate goes to follow him to give him the answer. Another time, went to a gun range. I have over a decade of experience as a firearms instructor and am teaching a friend to shoot. Friend is male. Go to the range, rent a few pistols, buy some ammo, and the sales guy proceeds to let my friend, who has never handled a firearm, go onto the range and start shooting, and held me back to give me a safety lecture on how to handle firearms. Once my boyfriend and I decided to check out a gym, and so this guy's giving us a tour. When we go upstairs, he says, and now here is the area that she'd be interested in, the yoga and Pilates studio. The gym sounded cool and like a good option for us at the time, but that comment alone just pissed me off. Not a woman. Me and my wife went into a Wendy's. I started my order while my wife decided what she wanted. I finished and my wife began to order. The guy, Indian I guess, completely ignored her like she did not exist. Then asked if there was anything else for your lady. I responded, she just gave you her order, and he says back looking at me, can you repeat it for me? I did not get it. So my wife repeats the order and the guy does not bat an eye or break eye contact with me and just is staring at me waiting for me to order. My wife snapped her fingers in his face, mad that he is ignoring her, and he just says sir, like he is waiting for me to order for my wife. I point to her and say, she is ordering ma'am. He just stared and then repeated sir, what is your wife's order? We just left then and didn't pay for my order that was waiting. We were having problems with our water heater and called someone to come take a look at it. My husband happened to take the dog for a walk just as the guy arrived. For some reason he decided he was going to need to cut a giant hole in our wall behind it. I didn't know any better so I started helping him move stuff out of the way. Just as he's getting his saw ready, husband walks in the door. Suddenly his entire story changes and actually all he needs to do is replace his small part. His attitude was completely different and magically he did not need to ruin our drywall. I was pretty frustrated. It's interesting that obviously you didn't realize he was scamming you, which is what he assumed, but then immediately assumed that your husband would be wise to it. Way to show your hand, idiot. I wanted to trade in my car for an SUV about a month after I got married, but before I changed my name. Found one I wanted, called my husband to come see what he thought. The salesman, an older guy who had previously been super nice to me, completely flipped the switch when my husband showed up. He started catering to him and acting pretty condescending towards me. When he found out we were newlyweds, he started asking if the upgrade was for babies or if it was a wedding present for the little wifey. Husband, who rocks by the way, said nope, this is 100% her car. She's the breadwinner. I'm a stay-at-home dog dad. Not completely true. He runs his business from home, but I do make a lot more money than he does. Salesman laughs like it's a joke and continues to talk options with husband, ignoring me. I asked the receptionist who the newest salesman on the floor was and then asked him to show me a platinum package, fully loaded 4-wheel drive version of the SUV I wanted. Bought it on the spot with all the bells, whistles and warranties. I filled out all the paperwork while the old salesman was still trying to get my husband to buy a completely different vehicle than the one I was looking at. He didn't even realize what had happened until the store manager brought me my keys. I wish I had a picture of the look on his face. As a female gamer who majored in computer science and sold electronics at Toys R Us during college, I don't think a day went by where I wasn't talked down to about technology by someone. But the absolute strangest one wasn't as a buyer, but came from an older lady who was looking to buy Studio Ghibli movies. I'm also a huge anime fan, so I was excited to recommend my favorites and ones she and her grandkids might like, but she just refused to talk to me and kept asking if there was another employee who knew about this kind of stuff. She eventually caught eye of my long-haired male coworker and was like, He looks like he would know. And went off to ask him. He knew nothing about anime, but when he finally figured out what she was talking about, I saw his face light up. Oh, you should ask Ekio over there, she knows all about that stuff. And she stomped off without another word. A similar story happened to my wife maybe 10 years ago. She worked in electronics at a big retailer and approached a lady to offer help with a printer. The lady straight up asked, "Is there a man who could help me?" At that time there were only women in the department and my wife told her so, but this lady insisted. My wife called for a man over the radio and got a guy from a different department and walked away. So this lady starts asking him questions, and of course he can't answer them. So he relays them to my wife over the radio, who answers them from 2 aisles down, right in front of this lady, who by all accounts didn't have the decency to look embarrassed. My so used to work at an Apple store. Anytime a customer had a woman helping them and then asked if they could speak to someone else or a manager or someone who knew their stuff, they'd bring over another woman. They'd have about 5 women of various rank that they'd just send over in rotation until the customer would get flustered and stop asking. "You want someone else? Mariah, can you come here? Oh, someone who knows their stuff? Of course, I'll call Jennifer. Oh, a manager? Stephanie, can you help John here? Oh, a genius member? Betty should be able to help you in a minute." My now ex-husband had totaled my car and we went to the local dealership to get a replacement. I told the salesman that I wanted a manual transmission right up front. I like to have more control in the snow and be more engaged with the whole driving process. Sales guy showed me 3 automatics, with me shooting down each one for not being what I wanted. Told him I would only drive a stick shift once more. 3 more automatics. Finally my partner looked at him and said, "The lady wants a manual car," and he looked me dead in the face and said, "Well, you should have said something." He was either so disinterested that he never listened to a word I had said, or he thought I didn't know what I was saying. Screw that guy. My mom, who has painted every house we've ever lived in inside and out multiple times, is always interrupted in paint stores by a man who thinks he knows better. She can literally walk in to grab an extra gallon of a color she bought yesterday, and the cashier will try to argue with her about the product. When we were shopping for paint for my bedroom, one of the employees said, "Oh no ma'am, you should get this instead. Once it dries you can wipe it down with a cloth, so it's easy for you to clean." It's my room, asshat. I'll be cleaning it, not my mother. Additionally, my dad is vegetarian but my mom loves steak, so naturally whenever we go out to a nice dinner she gets a steak and he gets a pasta primavera or something. My mom can raise her hand and say the steak is mine, and they still set it down in front of my dad. Was buying a house this year, and one of our realtors, we went through several before finding an honest one that didn't try to hose us, refused to talk to me unless it was to be condescending. The loan is 100% in my name. At one point he shows us a house with a huge electrical tower in the back, and I was like, "No, I don't want a house with an electrical tower." He looked at me, laughed and gave me a little woman tone and said, "Oh well, how far away would you like an electrical tower then?" And then gave my husband the eye roll. You know the one, ladies, where the guy is insinuating that the woman is a problem and he sympathizes with the husband because I'm obviously a handful. There were also comments on the kitchen areas and the laundry rooms, which were the only times he would speak to me. Screw that dude. I had a landlord who pulled this crap with me years ago. This place has a dishwasher and a washer and dryer, so that should make you happy. Later on, when he decided to evict us, I was the one waiting in court with an accordion folder full of papers that were going to prove he was a crappy landlord, and all he could think of to say to me was, "Why are you here? Where's your husband?" He decided to have the case dismissed when he saw the folder too. I went to a dealership to purchase a car after mine was totaled in an accident. My father-in-law drove me because my husband was at work. This guy kept ignoring me and talking to my father-in-law. Even after every question was answered. "I don't know what kind she wants. Ask her. And I have no idea what her budget is." I walked off, and he was still talking to my father-in-law, showing him a car. I walked up to another salesman and told him that guy apparently didn't want to sell women cars and asked if he did. He was glad to help me and kept smirking at sexist guy while filling out the paperwork. I think there was some rivalry there because my sales guy was very accommodating and even threw in 4 brand new tires. Bought a car with my husband. Salesman's boss comes over for negotiation, reaches his hand out and introduces himself to my husband. Turns to me, smiles and says, "And you're the garnish, right, sweetie?" I ordered a rifle, and that salesman was fine. When I went to pick it up once it was in, I said, "I'm here to pick up a rifle I ordered." The man working that day said, "Is it a pink one?" Not, "What is your name? What is your order number? What is the make or model?" But, "Is it a pink one?" No, it was not a pink one. Reminds me of when I bought my compound bow. I was interested in things like appropriate size, appropriate or adjustable draw weight, maintenance requirements, etc. To his credit, the salesman paid attention to all of that and gave some great advice, even fine-tuning adjustments on the bow I bought to fit my exact measurements, but he also kept trying to steer me towards the pink ones. It should be noted that I have very short hair, don't own any feminine clothing, and dress almost exclusively in neutral colors or shades of blue. I've been served on 3 separate occasions without trying. I still had to tell the guy that he wasn't winning any points by trying to get me interested in pink. Sometimes I wonder if they had a massive shipment of pink stock at some point in the past and were constantly trying to offload it after realizing it wasn't popular. 22 years old with a decent salary, but I knew nothing about cars. I was between similar Honda, Toyota and Nissan, and I would always have my dad and younger brother with me. I picked Honda solely because the people at Nissan and Toyota were such tools. Ignoring my questions, handing the keys to my dad for the test drive, even though I said I was to be the sole owner, asking will my daddy be co-signing? That word, the way he said it, made my skin crawl. The Nissan guy treated me so poorly I left a review saying I felt mistreated as a woman, and of course the manager tried to backtrack. I even was sent a Visa gift card as a promotional thing for test driving, which wasn't advertised anywhere, so I realized they sent me actual money so I would remove my review. Mailed it back saying use the money to hire a diversity trainer for your organization. I'm still proud of that one. I vowed to fix this. I now know a lot about cars, including how they work, and I have a law degree and I make it a point to read every word, ask questions, etc. I offered to go to dealerships with any of my friends and a few people have taken me up on it already. I'm working on a blog too to help people with car buying and understanding the contract terms. I've literally made it my hobby to help people since I got treated so poorly once. Good luck ladies, and men too. It effing sucks that we get treated like this when buying something almost everyone needs. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Do not be afraid to ask for a different salesperson. There are dealerships on every corner. You don't owe them your business. In a sales environment like that, the customer has the power. Wow, you made it to the end. Thank you for watching, you precious little gem, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have a wonderful day, and as usual, remember to stay frosty.